Hello and welcome to Marketing Tech. This is our first episode along with Dave Davies. Welcome, David.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Great. So you're my guinea pig, I guess you can call it. We're gonna try to talk technology and how it relates to marketing. And one of the things I know about you is that you're really into multiple monitors and keyboards and that's the main stuff I knew about you. So.
I do. I can't. The way I see it, like just in philosophy, is it's my job to be as fast and efficient as I can because I'm charging my clients for my time. So it's my job to do that, and it's also my responsibility to future Dave to make sure that the setup that I have is one that will afford me the longest and healthiest career.
Right.
So I merge these things together, and I got some weird setups going on.
A while back I had talked to Mary, your wife, about I wanted to talk to you guys about how you did your monitors, and so I finally can get to do that now. So what I wanted to know is, obviously one or two monitors kind of makes sense, but how many do you use?
I have right now, I have theoretically four. I have two rows. I have a top row with three 22-inch monitors and then a 42-inch ultra wide on the bottom, which I may upgrade to a Curve 50 49-inch. In the not too distant future. You know what, you doing, I know you do paid search, and anybody in your audience who also does paid search will probably understand the reason that I ended up going that route. I used to have two rows of three monitors, but the reason that I went with an ultra wide on the bottom is Google Ads. And the number of columns that I need to do and the amount of scrolling that I was doing constantly, and then losing some columns on the left-hand side that would go under the keywords while I was trying to look at something on the right, and just went, all right, bite the bullet, get an ultra wide. And now, of course, once I got spoiled with that, I'm like, okay, but there's still a few columns I can't see off to the right-hand side. So now I need an even bigger monitor, apparently. And at some point, I'll probably just have a wall of monitors.
So when you say AdWords, are you talking about AdWords editor or both, or
It's mostly the editor, like the actual software version is pretty friendly for a normal size monitor. But once you get into the Google Ads, like sort of browser based interface, that's where I find that I'm having to scroll a lot, depending on the number of columns. But if I'm doing, as you probably are well aware, when you're doing bid adjustments and stuff like that, I want to have my search impressions. I want to have my cost per acquisition. I want to be comparing date ranges. I want to have like 3 or 4 of those different date range comparisons open. I want to have like just so much data I want to have all available to me quickly. I don't know if that's just because I'm impatient. Like I assume it is. It's just like I can get the same data and take a little longer, but I prefer to just turn my head from left to right than scroll from left to right, I guess.
Now, so what do you put on the 3 monitors above you?
Often I found that I get distracted a little too easily when I have all of them lit up. So I often actually just have my front or my upper middle monitor on, and my two to the wings off.
Right.
Just because I do find that I can get a bit distracted where my attention span is just like, oh, an email came in. It's fine. It's been 3 minutes since you checked, Dave. It's not that urgent. But when I'm doing things like site audits or deep dives into things, that's where all of a sudden I have all of them lit up. And it's just a variety of different tools, right? I'll have Ahrefs on one and Rush on another and Screaming Frog on another. And then on my bottom, I have a Word document and, probably an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, where it's, again, just, I don't like switching. Like, I don't like replacing something by, having to click and have something else new. I like to just be able to see everything all at once.
Well, before coronavirus, I knew you guys traveled quite a bit, and you actually, I know both of y'all would take multiple monitors with you on the road. If you could go on the road right now, what would be your setup in that situation?
Actually, we're about to go to Whistler, and I will be taking my laptop there. Like Whistler, for the listening audience, is quite close to where I actually live. It's a hop, skip, and a jump, and we have a client there who. It's great anyway. And so what I have a MSI laptop. Really good. I mean, if anybody cares, they're great laptops. Anyway, it's a GL63, and one of the reasons that I bought it was that it has a mini display port and an HDMI port and allows the use of both of them to support up to 3 monitors. So I'll end up bringing a monitor with me. I also just carry around with me in my laptop bag a little one that clips onto the side, a little 15-inch, just sort of clips onto the side. So that'll give me 2 15s, and I'll bring another 22-inch monitor, which I don't like when I'm going to conferences. I just deal with the side little clip on. But when I'm going to somewhere like Whistler, to me, it would almost be irresponsible to Dave's enjoyment of life to not bring that third, because when I'm vacationing, especially, the faster I can get through work. And in the case of Whistler, and get on a mountain and get on my bike and get like bombing down that mountain, the faster I can get to that, the happier I am. So bring 3 monitors, get through work faster, and then you can get to what you actually in that location to do.
So I know y'all both bring your own laptops, but do y'all like share monitors back and forth, or do you just all have a bunch of monitors?
No, we just have a bunch of monitors. Like we each have our own, although I have found it is pretty handy because oftentimes, Mary and I'll be sitting in a cafe or something. We just need to get out of the office. Well, not so much sitting in a cafe these days, but in the olden days, sitting in a cafe, and you can actually just take that second monitor, the little clip on, spin it around so we can both be looking at the same thing and work on our monthly planning meeting, or, working on redesigning our website. So work on some, tweaking of things, and both be sort of working, but only one person actually having to type, and the other person could at least see what they're working on. So there's a few configurations you can go with.
So what are the specs on that laptop? Is it, how fast is it and how much memory?
It came with 8, but I've gone up to 16, which isn't great if I'm trying to run Screaming Frog or something like that. But, then I usually just I leave my computer on at work and just pipe into it and
sure.
get that done. But it runs a 8750H with 16 gigs of RAM. It has a 256 SSD running the operating system and programs, and then just a terabyte standard hard drive.
Is that a SATA SSD or NVMe?
Ooh, yeah. Now I got to look up my specs. I haven't run CPU-Z on it in a while. But now I'm like, I don't actually know the answer to that question.
If it was, you would probably know. That's pretty new that people would be doing that.
Okay. Yeah, then it wouldn't be, because it is only it's probably about a year old now.
Right.
So it's getting old by the standards of laptops, but it still does everything I'm not a big video editor. I don't use a lot of Photoshop, right? I mean, I do, but what I do in Photoshop is pretty rudimentary, to say the least. So I prefer Fireworks, right? Like I wish they still made because I really need, it's just one level above Paint. Is kind of my level, right? Like just give me a lasso and Paint and I'd be good to go. But anyway, so yeah, my needs there are pretty basic. But at the office, of course, we need a lot more RAM. I'm sure you've tried to run Screaming Frog on limited RAM, and anybody in the audience who's tried to do that will go, oh yeah, you need at least 32.
Yeah, I was going to go into that in a minute, but one of the because I've actually worked with some other SEOs to try to do some stuff running, going through sites that had millions of pages, and that's a whole nother deal. I'll probably do a whole show on that, but it's Screaming Frog can be quite a resource hog. Yeah,
it can. And I mean, they've done a lot lately with saving to the hard drive instead of saving to your RAM and stuff. Like they have moved that needle forward a bit, which I appreciate, but it's still a pig, right? Yeah. And especially, I mean, the number of tabs that we all have open without even thinking about it. I'll have like 4 instances of browsers, each one with like 30 tabs, and go, oops, there's my problem. But
yeah, one of the things I found that the NVMe hard drives work really well with Screaming Frog because it really makes it scream, and it's really nice to do that. The NVMEs are getting a lot cheaper now, and even I think 2 years ago when I was first starting with Screaming Frog, they were kind of expensive. I mean, they're pretty expensive, but now they're getting more reasonable. You can get them for like $100 for 500 gigs now. It's pretty reasonable. Even the worst NVMe is better than just about anything else. And it's interesting that hard drives, the physical, the RPM hard drives, they're dying. I mean, there's almost no reason to have them anymore unless you're having a data center with tons of, you need to share terabytes of data or something.
Well, that's very true. And you're just going to have to kill some time talking for a few minutes because I got to go to Amazon here. No, I jotted it down and I'll be looking those up in a minute because I'm like, okay, I do like anything to boost that speed is.
Yeah, NVMEs are insanely fast. I mean, they make SSDs almost look like a regular hard drive. I mean, they're just so much faster. They they're on the PCI bus, like same as the video card. So I mean, they're just fast. I mean, they look just like RAM. They actually look exactly like a RAM, except on the RAM you have stuff on the bottom. This has stuff on the side where you plug it in.
Okay, I like now I can visualize what you're talking about. Yeah. So you know what? Here I came on your show, and I came on your show to learn. So apparently, this is being the first show you now have a listener, because I've now learned that I will learn.
Yeah. I mean, I plan on going into this kind of stuff in detail, and I'll be making some actual just learning videos as well, with no interview, where we just go in and kind of do tutorials and unboxing and things like that. Like the monitor behind me, the ViewSonic. No, Samsung Galaxy or Odyssey G7. Have you heard about that one?
You would actually, I think you mentioned something about it on Facebook, and I've now actually added that to a favorites or like one of my bookmarks now. And
they have a G9, which you might be more interested in. It's actually the ultra wide, and it will. It's huge. Linus Tech Tips did a really good thing on it, if you look him up, the G7 Linus, and it's funny. It almost looks like a smile. It's so curved. Mine's the same way. I mean, it looks very, very good. So it's called 1000R, which is the measurement between them. What it would, if you wanted to make a full circle with them, what the measurement would be. So a 1500R is the standard, really, and then there's 1800R, and then mine's 1000R. So it's really, really curved.
Wow.
And for me, I'm legally blind, so it's really good for me because I can't do multiple monitors. I have to physically move my head to the other monitor like this. I have to move around to it because I literally can't see that far. So this one curves around a little bit. And so I can actually just move my head around, and it's, I don't have to move over. I can just do back and forth now. So it's really nice. I found with this new monitor, there's only a couple of them that are 1000R. I think ViewSonic makes one and Samsung makes one. And it's also a gaming monitor. It has like 1 millisecond response. It's ridiculous. The response on it, HDR, and it's just every stat you can think of, 240 hertz, I think it is. And it's just insane.
See, I got to, and probably in continued shows as well, I've got to warn you that my wife, Mary, now hates you because you've now cost us probably, I don't know, $2,000 in monitors and hard drives.
Yes. Yeah, this monitor was the most expensive monitor I've ever bought. I mean, yours was probably more because it's so big, but as far as this was like $600 some odd. It was not cheap.
No, and it's funny because I can see it in the background, and it looks like I can see it pretty crisp from here through my monitor. So
yeah, it's 240 hertz. It's got insane gaming stats on it too. And I've been starting to play games as well.
Awesome.
As far as talking about we talked about pay-per-click a little bit, which is not CPU intensive or even memory intensive that much, except for occasional Excel spreadsheets that we might get. I've seen some pretty big, especially with Google Shopping. I have some pretty big spreadsheets from my shopping clients. So as far as your home computer and stuff, do you ever run out of resources, or is just you've got everything you need for that?
I now do. I think like everybody in our industry, you keep finding your bottlenecks, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I need to upgrade that. Okay, well, and then you just sort of limp along. It's like, okay, like when I first built, because I like to build my own machines.
Me too.
And then when I built this one, I'd gone lighter on the RAM, right? I didn't know that I needed 32 because I'd also just upgraded the memory type, right? So to the DDR4 from the DDR3. So I'm like, oh, okay, 16 will be fine. Nope, Dave. No, it won't. Right? Like you need 32 still. But then all of a sudden it was video cards, and that's probably the one thing that I still need to invest in. Will be a better video card.
You might want to wait on that a little bit. I think in September when NVIDIA and AMD are coming out with new stuff, so it's going to be so you can either get a cheaper, this generation, or get the newest one. So I'm thinking about, depending on how good it is or how different it is, I might just right now the top consumer one would be a 2080 Ti NVIDIA, and but they're like $1,200,
Yep.
But I'm hoping, in October or so, they'll be down to, $800 or $900. That'll be nice.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hoping. Which I think for most in SEO, like it wouldn't be necessary to have a graphics card at the kind of capabilities we're talking about, right? Like my kids have those for gaming, like hardcore gaming. But I do like playing around with deep fake technology. Like I've been toying around with it, and it just, no, right? Like my machine's like, no. My laptop actually does it better because it does have a 1080 Ti, but it's a laptop version of that. So it's not really very good. So anyway.
Well, I've been building a couple of machines right now. Just, it's kind of, I switched from, I was Mac for 5 years, and I've decided to kind of go back to PC. I'm still going to get a little Mac to do some things with, but I'm starting to play games more. And so I needed more power. So I had to go to PC for some of that stuff. And
welcome back, by the way.
Yeah, I really miss some of the features though. It's really, it was nice having with my iPhone. It was nice having my chat and FaceTime all in one. It all worked together with the desktop and the iPhone.
Yeah, and that is one of the big. That's one of the big selling points from Apple's standpoint, right? It all works, and it all works pretty well. It's just what it does. I know I used to have an iPhone, and it was actually when I wanted to use I don't know if you remember Groove Shark, right? It was basically audio streaming, right? Like I would just listen to it for music, but Apple wouldn't let it into their store, and then I couldn't install it anywhere from outside of the store without jailbreaking my phone. And I was like, how dare you tell me what I can put on my phone? And switched to Android at the time. But I get it. At the same time, I was just downloading something just random. It's like I was just installing something. I didn't know anything about it. I was being actually a security idiot at the time. So
yeah, there's pros and cons to PC and Mac. I mean, they both have their pluses and minuses, and it's you have to choose whatever is most important to you at the time. So gaming is kind of important to me right now. So PC, I have to go PC.
Right. Well, and if you look at the price of having, like I have 4 monitors, Mary has 5. The price of doing that on a Mac?
Well, on mini Macs, it's literally impossible unless you, well, actually, you can do it, but you have to use an external video card. Right. I just helped a guy the other day. He wanted to be able to use his laptop, but he needed a high-end video card. So you have to buy this anywhere from $200 to $400. It's a little box, and the box will hold a video card, a regular full-size video card, and goes into your Thunderbolt. And so that's, if that's one way to do it, but that can get kind of pricey too.
Okay, but that's actually cheaper than it probably was when I was looking at them. Like I'm going way back to where that little box didn't exist when I was looking it up. And it was, anyway.
Yeah, because my MacBook Pro, it maxed out at two external monitors. You literally couldn't add any more than that to it. So it was a real hassle.
Yeah, that would be, but which is pretty atypical. Like I know Mary's laptop, for example, only handles 2. Now that's fine for what she tends to do, and if she needs 3, she uses mine, right? Like, which is fine. But
one thing people don't know about is that there's actual monitors out there that support USB, and you can actually hook up it with. It's actually like a little adapter, and it's a USB adapter to a monitor, and it worked on PC and Mac for a while, but about 2 years ago, Mac completely made that impossible to work anymore. So anybody who had bought one, all of a sudden didn't work anymore, but it still works on PC as far as I know. You can actually get a USB monitor. And what I actually do is I have my iPad. I have one of those 12.9-inch iPads, and I will actually, there's a little program, it's called Splash something or whatever, and you just attach it by your USB cable from your iPad, and it will become a monitor. It's really nice.
Oh, okay. That is interesting.
And also, too, another thing I'll do is VNC. Have you heard of that?
Yep.
I will actually put that on my desktop, and I can take my laptop anywhere in the house and then just remote into my PC, and I can do almost anything as if it were a computer. And I will actually I was going to show you this. I actually have this new keyboard I got. I just used a USB keyboard and a USB mouse, and essentially I can have my giant PC wherever I'm at. Especially inside the house, where I have good network, 1 gigabit network, I can actually run games on it and stuff like it's on my PC. It's pretty amazing.
See, it's interesting you bring up that's specifically what I use. I mentioned that, when I'm in Whistler, I'll just pipe in. It's actually, I didn't know the audience, but it's VNC Viewer. It's the exact same thing, just to go, okay, I need to run Screaming Frog. I'm not doing that off my laptop in a Wi-Fi connection in a sort of, it's a village, but like it's a remote, like it's not the super best internet speeds. Right? So yeah, interesting that we're using the same technology.
Yeah, I mean, there are remote PC stuff, and even if you have Microsoft Windows Pro, it comes built in with the ability to do that. I don't think home you're allowed to do that in home, but if you get Windows Pro, you actually get free remote desktop, which is nice, which could be kind of worth it. And it's not that much more to switch to Pro, and I highly recommend that if you really want to do some remote desktop. But VNC works great. I mean, I haven't had any problems with it.
No, nor have I. And I'm pretty much using it for that one thing, right? Like I need a workhorse. So be a workhorse, because my laptop does most of the other things I would want. I just don't want to run something that's intense on it.
As I was telling you before, this is called a clever keyboard. Can you see it?
Yeah.
It actually has, trying to figure out this camera, it actually has 3 buttons on here where I can switch between different Bluetooth devices. So if I have 2 laptops or a laptop and a desktop or whatever with Bluetooth available, I can just hit this button and switch between have the keyboard control different ones. It's really nice. And it's also
I like that.
It also has a number pad on it, which I use a lot. Do you use number pad or the numbers on top? Because we use a lot of numbers in our business.
We do, yeah. I actually just have my keyboard doesn't have a number pad on it, but I do have. It's divided into layers, right? Like it's a mechanical keyboard. So anybody in the audience or listening audience who has a mechanical keyboard would know probably about layers and programmable. And if I switch to layer 2, I have just a button on the right-hand side, or on the left-hand side rather, that'll switch me to layer 2. And then my right-hand side, it's divided into 2 pieces, like right and left, my keyboard. Right. So if I switch it to layer 2 on the left hand half, the right-hand half becomes a number pad. So I could then use the number pad.
I think I've heard about that, but I never really thought about it. Interesting. Yeah, I've been trying to find the right kind of keyboard. That's when I eventually bought that one, because I just kind of settled because I couldn't find what I wanted. I want a mechanical keyboard, but I also want it to be natural, like the Microsoft Natural keyboard. I love my Microsoft Natural keyboard. I've been using it since it came out. My old white one that was PS2, I've been using that forever. And so I'm still looking, and I watched some videos yesterday. You could literally make your own keyboards now, but it's really difficult.
It is. I know. I know my eldest has manufactured keyboards and stuff, and it's quite a process, a labor of love if you're interested in doing it. I don't have the patience for doing that. I do like to have PCB mount switches, because I could switch them out, like swap them out on my mechanical, right? Which I did, right? I had the Cherry MX Browns to begin with, which are clicky, right? Like they make a click sound. They are linear, but they made a click sound, and I've switched them for the Gateron Black Silence, which are a little heavier, but more importantly are quiet, so it doesn't sound like a machine gun nest while I'm typing away at my computer. So I do find that part important for me anyway. But yeah, I wouldn't go to the effort of building one myself. I just other people have come up with systems that are just so much better. And I know you can even get kits where it's like, okay, it's an Ergonomics kit or something. I'm like, okay, how about I just let a professional manufacture this, and I'll do my job for a living and make enough to pay that person to have done their job, and we can both just do the thing we're good at.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I don't know if you're still on it, but I remember you had gotten a certain kind of keyboard that kind of comes up like a TP sort of thing. Is that still what you're doing?
It's not anymore. That was a great keyboard, a Gold Touch Ergonomic. It was sort of my introduction into split keyboards, because it did split and allow, like, it sort of, it did raise, it tented, and then it had a hinge at the back so that you could move your elbows out a little bit. It was a non-programmable though, so I couldn't switch where the keys were, which wasn't a big deal at the time. But I actually suffer from 2 physical ailments, one of which is just over time, one of which I developed, I gather, as a kid. But the humerus on my right-hand side, my shoulder is damaged, the growth plate, and the humerus is actually about 1.5 inches shorter. So the way I operate on keyboards is unnatural, right? Because my arms aren't actually the same length.
Oh,
So that was causing me a problem. And then from moving to hit the enter key so often, because I would need to tent up and adjust myself, which is why I had that folding one that you're referring to. But I ended up finding that I needed a programmable. And the reason was right under my pinky finger, I actually started to damage it. The joint was getting damaged from that constant hitting it on the side. So I programmed it, and my pinky finger is just the enter key now. So I just type and just hit enter. It's just a straight down motion to hit enter there. And it just reprogrammed. So actually I have, for listeners who may be interested, it's, well, I don't know if I can show. That's what half of it looks like. And there's the other half there. So it sits on either side. I actually have my mouse in the middle, which takes the strain off my shoulder and keeps my arms separated.
So your mouse is in the middle of the two pieces?
Yeah, I have the keyboard and then the mouse sitting right in the middle.
Interesting.
Just keeps all the strain off my shoulder, which, as I say, was damaged as a kid. So
when I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft, my arm just sitting like this, having my arm up like this, started to hurt after a while. It just still trying to get used to where the camera goes.
Well, and it's amazing because it almost sounds silly when we're complaining about sort of the repetitive strain, right? Like, because you think about workplaces and the dangers of or problems and ergonomic issues that they face. And I think, I spent a summer working in construction when I was in college and stuff. Okay, the workplace safety there was very different than what we're talking about here. But I've now been sitting at a computer for 20 years. I'm sure you have too. And I hope to be able to sit at a computer for another 20 years more because I love my job. And if I kept going on a standard keyboard, I wouldn't. And they are like the keyboards that you have that I have, they're not cheap. But when I look at it as the time it's buying me at the end of my career, like just in the ability of my body to continue to work, doing something I love, like not, I'm not forced to, I like my job. It's like, it's well worth the trade, right?
Yeah.
Like
I've had to use, since I've pretty much always used the Microsoft Natural, which is an ergonomic keyboard. And I've always had to use that because it would hurt my hands after pretty quickly on a normal keyboard. And I'm just starting to think about why that happens. And I think it's because I'm legally blind. So I have to sit 3 inches from my monitor. And as a matter of fact, most of the time my keyboard is underneath or behind my monitor while I'm typing. That's why I always have to use a monitor arm. I can't just use a stand because the stand gets in the way. So I have to actually move it behind it. And so getting up that close would kind of twerk my hands up so that it would kind of hurt. And so I've just always had the natural keyboards, and I've yet to find anything that is comfortable as the Microsoft Natural keyboard. And I'd really like to design my own someday to have the nicer keys and take up less space. It's kind of huge.
Yeah. Well, there is that. I know the keyboard you're talking about. That was actually my step one in my introduction into, and I was actually forced to use that. I didn't want to,
right?
Because back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, I worked for a hosting company, and I was still basically a 2-finger typer. Like I could type fast, but I would use my thumb for spacing and just 2 fingers on each hand, and I would raise across. Not fast. I probably not by my standards now, but at the time I was fairly fast. But then my the sort of head tech at this hosting company made us switch to the Microsoft Natural. Like that thing's been around forever and made us switch, and just the slight different shape of it didn't work for my 2-finger type. So I actually had to learn how to type properly.
Yeah, I've been using it. I'm not sure when it came out, but I'm using it at least 20 years, maybe more. I'm not sure. It's been around a long time. I really have to do that. There's just no other way of getting around it.
No, and you bring up some really interesting points, I think, for anybody to think about in sort of the design of these things, because I never thought of that specific challenge, right? Like, and I guess we all think of the different challenges we're trying to address when we think of hardware.
Sure.
But the idea of having to have the keyboard that close would present some very, very unique challenges in design of the ideal keyboard. Like I can see why you're looking for something new, but I can also see why you're having trouble finding it because people aren't thinking of it.
Yeah, I guess I should look more into the adaptive technology industry. I used to train blind people on computers, so I was really involved in it. But that was like 97 or 96. That was a long time ago. Because I remember there was a keyboard that some guy had invented specifically for his daughter. He called it the Darcy card. And what it basically was just a pad, and because she didn't have any hands, she just had a stump. And she did Morse code on it. She could type with Morse code. It was really interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
I mean, this is like the late 90s. That was a long time ago. But it's really interesting, all the adaptive technology out there, the different braille displays and text to speech and all that kind of stuff is really interesting.
It is very, very interesting. Not my field of expertise by any stretch, but I keep encountering it in places and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. But then I keep getting shocked. And I know I've actually messaged you on Facebook to get assistance in the past where I'm trying to find something on an iPhone for, my grandmother who's quite adept at technology, but her eyesight is not spot on. I mean, she's 88, right? Like her eyesight is not what it used to be. She can't see in one eye, so her depth perception is off. And it's always amazed me, well, saddened and like been shocked when I'm like, but it hasn't even adapted to somebody like that, right? Like where it's like, this is so many people who have trouble seeing. Why is it still that I'm having to like download weird things to and go, I don't really know this, but I guess if Apple trusts them, I'll give it a try. Like
Apple's been pretty good. They're really ahead of the curve. I mean, in a lot of ways, they because I know, like on my iPhone, if I see a paragraph I'd like to read, I could just select it, and then instead of paste, they have the option of speak, and it'll speak it. It's really nice. That's a really handy feature.
Okay, now I'm going to have to hunt that down because I did not know that. So I'll have to show her that.
It's just a default iPhone ability. So it has to be an iPhone, though.
And hers is. So that works. That worked great. It's one of the like joys is my dad convinced her to get a Mac and an iPhone. So I'm like, I'm not tech support anymore. I can't help you.
Yeah. And we talked about the pros and cons of PC and Mac. That's one of them. Macs just work, and they are kind of simple. But if you ever want to do anything fancy, it's harder because they have it so locked down. But in some ways, it's great that it's locked down. In other ways, it's horrible.
Right. Well, and it's in this case, it's great because I know she used to have a PC and she knew that I would fix it. And so she was just like a cowboy ransacking across her PC going, Dave will fix it if I break anything. Yeah. She broke it in some very interesting ways. She can't break her Apple. So
I remember listening to a comedian. I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about how his parents had gotten a PC and somehow they'd gotten some horrible virus on it. It was just like showing porn, like maybe two at once, and stuff. It was just horrible stuff. He said by the time he got there, they had it just sitting in the corner. The computer was in the corner, faced into the corner like it was in trouble. That was such a funny joke. So you mentioned your keyboard when you held up. What brand and model is that?
It's an Ergonomics Easy.
Okay.
So the Ergonomics comes in a variety of different types and flavors and this and that. You can get build kits. Like Ergonomics is actually just the structure of it. Ergonomics Easy is actually a build that's made. It costs about $300 or something like that to get it with the tenting kits, which allows like I can move these and adjust these so it'll angle up at different angles and stuff that. So it's sort of, you can customize it to the hand if you want all of that. Yeah, it costs about $300, but it comes with a specifics. You can get a variety of different whatever keys you want. One of the things that I did find frustrating for me is, and they might have fixed this at the time, you couldn't get silent ones. So I just went with stock because I didn't actually know my mechanical keys anyway, and then just ordered some silent ones in after I got used to it.
Cool. We're getting close to the end of the time. I just want to real quick say, you and I, we met kind of more informally in the past few years, three years or so, but we've known each other before that. I know I've been on y'all's your show. I guess I didn't really mention that. The name of your podcast is Webcology, and you do that every Thursday, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then the name of your company, what was the name of your company? I can't remember.
Is Beanstalk Internet Marketing.
Beanstalk Internet Marketing. You guys do pay-per-click and SEO as well?
We do, yeah.
Cool. And you're located in Victoria, Canada? Or
I am, yeah.
Cool. Y'all are on the island. Is that what the name of the island is?
No, the island is Vancouver Island, and the Victoria is the capital city of our province. So
okay. I don't know. I had a client in Canada. I had to learn that y'all have those weird looking zip codes. Like it's not like ours. They have like letters in them and stuff.
Yeah.
Are there like 3 or 4 letters or something?
There's 2 sets of 3.
Yeah.
And they are alphanumeric.
Yeah, that was confusing. I was like, something's wrong here at first. I didn't realize. I had no idea. I'd never seen anything like that before. And so, man, it's so nice talking to you. I'm glad that you can come on my show. I've been on your show several times, and hopefully we can have you back if we can think of some other things to talk about.
I'm sure we always can.
All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, David.
All right. Bye-bye.